Ready to elevate your credit understanding and score? With insider tips and a plan, you can take action to improving your score, which can save thousands in unnecessary finance charges. Let's tackle today's topic with your coach, Credit Christy.
Hey friends, it's Christy, your credit coach. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Today, let's talk about debt. It's such an unwanted and, quite frankly, uncomfortable conversation to have. But I'm hearing from more and more people that are truly drowning in debt and just don't know what to do. So let's set the table here. APRs on credit cards are at an all-time high, and so is the margin. I just read an article where the margin, or in other words, that profit part for credit card companies, are also at an all-time high. So in other words, the credit card company has a margin, which is their profit margin, which is added to the prime index rate. Prime index rate is tied to the Fed funds rate, which has been increasing quite drastically over the last couple of years, but has held steady so far this year. And if you listen to media, it's quite confusing as to what's going to happen with that Fed funds rate come September when they meet to potentially change it again. The governor of the Federal Reserve is suggesting that the rate will actually increase, but some of the headlines are suggesting that there will be a decrease to that interest rate. And if it does, then prime index will go down just a smidge, and that also means the APR on your credit cards will go down. But let's face it, costs have gone through the roof literally for just about everything. Housing payments, insurance, utilities, food, gas, everything costs more. And this has an impact on our debt to income ratio. So what is that? DTI, debt to income ratio. As a mortgage loan officer, this is one of our main components or numbers that we look at when we are working to get a mortgage loan approved. So DTI, debt to income ratio, is a percentage of your debts divided into your income. Now, for a mortgage loan application, if you are a W-2 employee, we look at your gross or before deductions total income. So if you earn $60,000 a year, that's $5,000 a month before taxes, insurance, 401k contribution, all of those things. So when it comes to a debt to income ratio, there are actually two numbers we're looking at. Your housing as it relates to your income, and also your total debt to income ratio, which is your housing plus any other debt that reports on your credit report. So a good rule of thumb for your housing is that your housing payment should not be above 33% of your gross income. That would probably bring it to about 26 or 28% of your take-home income. So if you want to figure this out yourself, you can do it easily. Open up the calculator on your phone. If you're using your take-home pay, put in that monthly dollar amount times 0.26%. That should be what you should be paying for your housing payment. If you're looking at gross or before any kind of deductions, say you make $60,000 a year before any taxes or insurance, those kinds of things. So you take that $5,000 a month and you would multiply that by 0.33 and then hit that equal sign. That should be what your housing payment max goal is. Now, there's a really good likelihood you're paying greater than that. And that might be why you feel the squeeze on everything else. If your housing payment is too high, that means it takes away from spending on some other things. Now, let's look at your total debt to income ratio. It's going to be your housing and any other debts that show up on your credit report, such as your car payment, credit card minimum payments, payments on a student loan or an installment loan, and any other kind of personal repayment. So add up all of those dollar amounts. This is going to include your housing payment, either your mortgage or your rent. Add those other debts I just listed, and then divide that number into your income. So let's say between your rent, car payment, student loan, and credit card minimum payments, your total debt outflow is $3,000 a month. Now, this does not include utilities, insurances, food costs, none of that, just the things that show up on your credit report. Let's say that adds up to $3,000. And you earn $5,000 a month. Your total debt ratio is 60%. And friends, that is way too high. So if you're feeling the squeeze, that's exactly why. You have too much debt for the income you are earning. A good rule of thumb for the total debt to income ratio should not exceed 45% of your income. If that's good enough for loan approval, then that's good enough as a practice in life. And then that allows the other parts of your bills to have money to get paid, such as having food in your belly and air conditioning and heat on as needed. So what are some problematic debt signs or warning signs that you might have too much debt, aside from this debt ratio calculation? You may have no emergency savings to speak of. You are likely experiencing rising credit card balances, or you might find yourself having to take on a new credit card or a loan just to make ends meet. Now, if you are living paycheck to paycheck and your debt balances are going up, even though you're making those monthly payments and you just cannot get those balances to go down, you're going to feel like you're just spinning your wheels and not making any impact at all. So I'm sure you've heard that there's good debt and bad debt. Well, let's add to that category a toxic debt. So good debt, I would refer to as a mortgage. That's leveraging a loan in order to buy a home, which I believe a home is the best way to generate wealth. You can grow equity over time. You need to have a roof over your head anyway, and you're paying somebody's mortgage, either yours or your landlord's. So I do feel like a mortgage is good debt. If you're getting specialty training for a degree or a certification or something along those lines for your next move to grow in your career, then taking on student loan debt or business training would fall underneath good debt. Bad debt is going to be credit card balances that you bring forward. Quite honestly, financing a car. I know most of us need a car, but the majority of people that I speak to don't drive a car. It's an identity. So if that might be you, you might want to put that in check and just see if that's something you can make an adjustment on. I drive a 9-year-old car, and I only share this with you because it's in great working order and it's paid off. And instead of having a car payment, I can put that money towards a 401k, an IRA, vacation planning, savings towards a bigger goal, starting a business. I can put money towards any of those things. And before we leave bad debt, personal loans would fall underneath bad debt. It would also fall underneath toxic debt. So if you are using a buy now, pay later because you don't have the money, that's toxic. If you had to go and get a high interest rate personal loan just to help make ends meet, if you find that your debt load is growing and growing just to maintain your lifestyle, that is toxic debt. It will grab you by the ankles and pull you down swiftly. So be very, very careful when you're looking at potentially taking on new debt. I can quote Ernest Hemingway here in his book, The Sun Also Rises, where one of the main characters had asked, "How did you go bankrupt?" And the other character answers 2 ways, gradually and then suddenly. Sometimes we see the signs and ignoring them could pull you down hard and fast. So friends, please be careful. So how do we handle growing debt? See if there's something you can refinance. If you've got a ton of debt out there, a car loan, credit cards, installment loans, whatever the case is, and you own your home, there's a really good chance that you have a tremendous amount of equity in your home. You could consider a cash out refinance or a home equity line of credit to pay off those other lines of debt. But here's the catch. Do not go out and put new balances on those credit cards. Do not go out and get new installment loans. We've got to change or modify the behavior, or otherwise you might just wind up with more new debt added to your more new debt. Let's not do that to ourselves. And I know a lot of people are rolling their eyes right now saying, I have a 3% 30-year mortgage. Why would I go and refinance that into a 7-something? Well, if you look at your 28% APR on your credit cards and maybe double digits on your personal installment loans, it might still put you in a better place financially as far as cash flow. Because let's face it, you're making a payment to a dollar amount, not to an interest rate. So if it helps you stop the squeeze of not being able to potentially make your payments soon, then it's definitely something to consider. You can look at the snowball method of paying down your credit cards. And I won't get into that here. I have an episode on that. If you put in the word snowball to search, it'll show up. And also Dave Ramsey made it very, very popular. So you can Google that and find out exactly how to do that. If you've lost your job or something terrible has happened, an illness or a divorce or some kind of situation in your life that's making it very, very difficult to make payments, reach out to your creditors. They might just offer a forbearance or a deferment on your monthly payments for a specific amount of time, and it won't negatively affect your credit profile. But making a late payment or ignoring payments altogether can absolutely destroy your credit profile and credit score. And that would eliminate the shot of you getting any new loans in the near future should you need one. I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and she's late on 3 credit cards. Well, friends, she has about $300,000 in equity in her home, but she's not going to qualify for a home equity line of credit because her credit scores are slaughtered. So even though she has that equity available, she essentially shot herself in the foot of being able to access it because she waited until she was several months late on her credit card payments before looking to get some guidance and help and what to do next. So consider working overtime, getting a side hustle, getting a second job, getting a roommate. Do something to stop the bleeding and pay down the debt. You've got to make a big dent, because if all you're doing right now is being able to make the minimum payments on your credit card balances, you're barely covering the interest charges. You won't even make a dent on that balance. And if you're having to use those credit cards every single month just to get by, before you know it, you're going to be maxed out on those credit cards. And then what would you do if you don't have the ability to use those credit cards any longer? Now, you've heard it said in other episodes, the goal is to have your credit card balances at 30% of your limit or below. And anything above that, you might find that your credit score suffers because of an overutilization of debt. I truly believe that our country is facing a really big problem when it comes to how much debt we're utilizing. And it just takes one shift in our income, our job, our situation, that if you're already living paycheck to paycheck could create a really terrible situation. And believe me, my heart feels what you might be going through because I've gone through it several cycles in my life where I'm paycheck to paycheck. I have nothing in savings, no emergency fund to speak of. I'm not able to contribute to employer-sponsored retirement accounts like my 401k or my IRA. I'm not able to tithe the way that I want to or give the way that I want to just because I'm trying to cover the nut every single month. And it can often feel like there's more month than money. So if that's you, take charge, gain control, create a budget. And that budget is going to hurt. Friends, it's going to hurt. You are going to list out your take-home income and then every bill that you're paying. And be real to yourself. How much are you really paying in gifts to friends and family each month? How much are you really paying on groceries? Get real with the numbers and you're going to see why your credit card balances are increasing every single month because you have more outflow than inflow. So something has to change or something's going to break. So take control of your spending. Show your money where it goes rather than it telling you where it's going. Be the boss of it. Do what it takes in order to get ahead. And just keep telling yourself it's not forever. It's just temporary. You've heard me share my personal story before. I had 4 maxed out credit cards and a car payment I could barely keep up with. And I wound up working 3 jobs and literally eating ramen noodles at home most meals. Oh, and there was that phase that I lived off of hot dogs for a while. Ugh, but it was temporary. And the way you will feel about your accomplishment on the other side is huge. And then you can share with others how you did it and be an encouraging voice to them. Hey, I hope that this helps you today. And I just want you to know, I believe in you. I believe you can do this. I know you can get ahead of the debt. It's just going to take a little extra hustle from you. If you feel like you don't know enough about money or you'd like to create a better relationship with money, check out my book on Amazon called Finish Financially Free. A lot of what we believe and how we handle money is based on what we were shown younger in life from our caretakers, parents, our environment. And I don't know about you, but my parents didn't teach me about money. And it was really because they didn't know enough to teach me. And I'm sure you weren't taught about money in school outside of micro and macroeconomics. And let's face it, the banks and lenders and creditors don't want you to know about money because that's how they make their money. So let's get a grasp on it once and for all. Take charge, be in control. And when you're the boss of your money, you can finally get to a place in your life where you no longer have to work for it, but it's now working for you. Talk about a change of pace and a feeling of relief. Then you can stop working for a paycheck and then put your time to things that you truly enjoy. That's my goal, at least. What's your goal? I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email at questions@creditchristie.com. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'll answer it for you and provide the guidance that you're looking for. No strings attached. And I have a favor, my friends. If you haven't already, would you provide a review for me? This will help me show up to be able to help other people understand and better deal with debt and credit. It would mean the world to me. I hope that the content I bring you is worthy of 5 stars and a few encouraging words of what you've gotten out of this podcast. Hey, thanks so much for joining me for another episode. And until next time, my friends, stay well.
Subscribe now and share with a friend to stay in the loop for new credit content and insider tips to maximize your credit knowledge. And follow Credit Christie on Instagram.